newborn King. Christ by highest heaven adored, Christ the everlasting Lord. In time behold him come, offspring of the Virgin womb. Hail in flesh the Godhead seen, hail the incarnate deity, pleased to stand with men to dwell. Jesus, Emmanuel, hark the herald angels sing, glory to the newborn King. Hail the heaven-born Prince of Peace, hail the Son of righteousness, light and light to all he brings, risen with healing in his wings. While he laid his glory, no more may die, born to raise the sons of earth, born to give them second birth. Hark the herald angels sing, glory to the newborn King. Hark the herald angels sing, glory to the newborn King. This morning dawns and evenings fade. You inspire your songs of praise that rise from earth to touch your heart and glorify your name. Your name is a strong and mighty tower. Your name is a shelter like no other. Your name, let the nations sing it louder. Nothing has the power to save but your name. Jesus, in your name we pray. Come and fill our hearts today. Lord, give us strength to live for you and glorify your name. Your name is a strong and mighty tower. Your name is a shelter like no other. Your name, let the nations sing it louder. There's how humble your love. With the strength like no other, and the heart of a father. How majestic your whispers. What a wonderful God. No eyes fully see how beautiful the cross. We have only heard the faintest whispers of how great you are. You made the world and saw that it was good. You sent your only Son, for you are good. What a wonderful Maker. What a wonderful Savior. How majestic your whispers. How humble your love. With the strength like no other, and the heart of a father. How majestic your whispers. What a wonderful God. What a wonderful Maker. What a wonderful Savior. How majestic your whispers. How humble your love. With the strength like no other, and the heart of a father. How majestic your whispers. What a wonderful God. What a wonderful Maker. What a wonderful Savior. How majestic your whispers. How humble your love. With the strength like no other, and the heart of a father. How majestic your whispers. What a wonderful God. What a wonderful God you are. In this Christmas season, when we celebrate the birth of Messiah in the manger, just a thought that we had a problem called sin that we couldn't solve. It wasn't your problem. It was our problem. But you solved our problem by sending your Son to come and live, and go to a cruel cross and take our sins there with him. Such wonderful love, Lord. Love that we can never fully comprehend, Lord. Savior. How majestic your whispers, how humble your love, with the strength like no other, and the heart of a father. How majestic your whispers, what a wonderful God. I wonder if you are, Lord. Bless your name.
Please take this time to greet one another. Thank you so much for being here this morning. Wow, it looks like we're going to beat the countdown timer for the meet and greet. You're witnessing history here, by the way. No, that's fine. You still got 15 seconds. Talk away. Well, I know that we don't have a lot of children here today, but we are happy for all of the children that we do have here, and they will go with Miss Morgan in just a moment. So let's pray for our children and bless them. I'm just so blessed to see children that are excited about Christmas, as all children are, but then children that know the real meaning of Christmas and can share that with you. And so thank you for bringing your children to church. Let's pray for them now. Lord Jesus, thank you for our children, Lord. We bless them as we do every single week, Lord. We just desire your absolute best for our children, Lord. Lord, your word tells us that it is not even entered into the heart of man, the things that you have prepared for us. And we thank you, Lord God, that your will and your plans towards our children and grandchildren are good plans. And we pray that they would just grow up knowing and loving you and increasing in that. In Jesus' name, amen. All right, children, you may go with Miss Morgan. You're going to stay in this building today. And today, how many of you have never been to a shared worship service? Like, you're like, what in the world is a shared worship service? Everybody's like, either like, yeah, I've been there, I know what's going on, or like, I'm not going to admit that I don't know what's going on. So a shared worship service is just a time where I share as little as possible in order for anyone who would like to share as much as possible. And I don't know about you, but like this Christmas for me, this year was really interesting in some ways, really painful in other ways. But one of the things that I found myself paying attention to this year more than ever before that I remember are certain lines of certain Christmas carols. There were 3 lines in 2 different Christmas carols that kind of stood out to me this year. And the first one was from the carol, Hark the Herald Angels Sing. And the line in there that just really stood out to me this Christmas was this: mild he lays his glory by. And I wish that would have come to me a little bit earlier, because I did a sermon during our Advent series called Who Are We Waiting For This Christmas? And we saw there from Philippians 2 about Jesus that equality with God, it says, was not something that he saw to be grasped. And there's only 2 occasions that we grasp after something. One occasion is where we're grasping after something we don't have. So we're grasping for something that we want. The other situation that we grasp after something is we grasp by holding on to something that we already have because we're afraid to lose it. And the Bible tells us in Philippians 2 that Jesus did not count equality with God something to be grasped. And certainly it wasn't something that he was going after that he didn't have, because the context rules that out. But it was something that he already had in hand and relinquished it by emptying himself and becoming a servant. And that's what Hark the Herald Angels talks about. Mild he lays his glory by. That it didn't have to be wrenched out of his hand. Then the second one I shared at our Christmas Eve service from Joy to the World. Let every heart prepare him room. Let every heart prepare him room. One of the verses that I read during the Advent season, just because we read through the Bible in the year at the church, and it just so happened to be, it has nothing to do with Christmas, but it has more to do with towards the end of Jesus' earthly life. But there's a verse that I love where the religious leaders are like getting freaked out because of Jesus' popularity, and they say, look, the whole world has gone after him. Oh, what an amazing scripture to pray, because that reality is being lived out more in our day than ever before. The world, the nations are coming after Jesus. Let every heart preparing him room. And then the third phrase also comes from Hark the Herald Angels saying, late in time, behold him come. Late in time, behold him come. And it just reminded me that God's timing is not always our timing. And, God doesn't move in ways that we want him to all the time. Late in time, but behold him come. I'm going to invite Brenda up to share with us I've sort of kicked shared worship off. This is what it kind of looks like, just kind of a short sharing, and some of you probably doubted I could even do that. But one of the things we did last year that we continued this year, that Brenda's going to introduce that, so I'm just going to not tell you what it is. So let Brenda do that.
Can you sit with Daddy? Yes, baby. You want to stand with me?
Well, he can help. Yeah. He wants to hold your hand for moral support.
So last year, in an attempt to kind of give you a picture of the year, we created my own. So last year, in an attempt to kind of give you a picture of the year, we created a video. And I talked to Tim about this year, and I said, well, I take a lot of pictures. So we're going to do that again this year. I sat with George and kind of unloaded my phone and James's and photos that we had received throughout the year. And I had 3 thoughts that I'd like to share with you. And the first, there's a verse in Habakkuk 3 where they're going through famine. And there have been times in my life where I have clung to this verse, these verses, and I was reminded of them. Because if you look at the beginning videos and pictures from this year, this is a packed service. Though the fig tree does not bud and there are no grapes on the vine, though the olive crop fails and the fields produce no food, though there are no sheep in the pen and no cattle in the stalls, yet I will rejoice in the Lord. I will be joyful in God my Savior. When you look at this video, look at this man. Because whether there are 15 people in this church or 200, when praise and worship is here, whether he gives or takes away, and all of us have touched loss in the last 2 years. Whether he gives or takes away, he is worthy to be praised when there is nothing and when there is abundance, and all of us go through those seasons, and I know it has been challenging. Which takes me to our next point. This year has been flexibility and craziness, and no one knew what it was going to look like. And I so appreciate Bernie and Tim and Beth and Liz and Sue and Gary and everyone who shows up that is willing to pivot. We don't know what we're doing. We're navigating this kind of new world. We looked at pictures and we were going to be outside and that kind of didn't work out, and it was hot, and it was like, well, Tim's not going to be here on his sabbatical. Who's going to make the rain call? And Bernie graciously agreed to preach from inside. Praise God for air conditioner and a changed church that has undergone many updates. So I appreciate the flexibility from our congregation. I appreciate the willingness to pivot, the willingness, Jean, to take on a website, and whatever that looks like for our future and for my replacement. There's a whole lot of technology, and I'm an analog girl. Thirdly, you will see just as many pictures from India as you see in our congregation. Our realities are worlds different, and everyone is facing COVID, and everyone has to live with death here. And the last 2 years have brought death a little bit closer. But we have to die. And if we can do it as ambassadors for Christ, let it have meant something. And I encourage all who are here and all who will listen and all who will see this. Tim and Beth and I saw these pictures. They did a pastor's conference. We can't get a packed house, even though we can get a packed Walmart and a packed Costco. These people are facing beating and death from just down the street, and they have a packed church to learn how to preach the good word. And I am humbled and blown away that that's not our reality. So as we think about the year to come, may we be bold, and may we carry light and gospel message with us so that we may be ambassadors of Christ in everything that we do. And maybe it doesn't mean that you're getting beaten, and it doesn't mean you're going to be jailed, and it doesn't mean you're facing death. But my goodness, is it important to show up for the people that you love, and the people that you can support, and the people that you can support in prayer from far away. And I so thank you for your faithful giving, that we can send money and resources and time to people who want to be trained to be ambassadors. Also, I want to give a shout out for everyone who did not make it in this video. There are a disproportionate amount of my kids. And none of Gary and Sue and Karen and Jean, who are doing so much behind the scenes work. So props to everyone who has showed up and made this church a church.
Thank you so much for putting that together. Brenda spoke very, very briefly about India, and you saw some of the pictures of what took place this year. That reminded me, I got a message just this morning from one of our pastors in Southeast India. They had a Christmas Eve service and preached the gospel to 900 Hindus. And guess what? You're a part of that. You're a part of that. Your giving helps make things like that possible. And we shared earlier just the receptivity of the Hindus to the gospel, because in the Hindu religion there is no hope. There, or maybe like a little bit of hope that you can reincarnate yourself to some better life form or whatever, but the idea of eternal life is completely foreign. So right now, again, our shared worship is just a time for anyone to come share. We saw this service, and one of the reasons why I always take off right after Christmas, but I didn't want to do it where I would miss this Sunday, because I love the idea that this is the last Sunday of the year, and we look back in celebration of 2021, but then there's also a sense of anticipation for 2022, and maybe as you think about something to share, that it'll fit into one of those, and if not, that's fine too. So I'm going to just kind of sit down and allow us to minister to one another. I also want to give this caveat every time we do this. There may be this thing that freaks people out in church, so I want to just give you a freak out warning. It's called silence. People freak out whenever there's silence, right? Because we just have so much filling our lives. But I want you to, like, if there's any moments of silence between people speaking, just accept this as God's gift to you. And it's not, kind of see it not as a time like, oh, I'm so glad it's silent in here because I can put together my Walmart list. But really, it's just sort of like, this is my time with Jesus, even in the silence. So whoever would like to share, please share.
I figure since I'm up here. Well, we've all been in like really crazy times these past 2 years. Oh, sorry. And we get to a place where it seems like absolutely everything around us is trying to kill us in one way, shape, or form. At least that's how we can get to. And we can be kind of made immobile by that fear. And I had a realization that hit me pretty hard a couple weeks back. There is nothing on this earth that can take you out but for God to allow it to happen. So if COVID takes me out, then God allowed that to happen. I'm not saying that God put COVID on earth and God put evil people on this earth to do evil things, and that's not God. But it has brought me so much peace to know that I don't need to worry about my next step. I don't need to be afraid of it. I don't need to stop from going and loving someone and extending a hand of help. If they have a bad disease, I can go into that room with confidence. And I may die from that disease, but I'm sure going to be there for that person. And it has brought me so much peace to know that my days are numbered on this earth. And there will be one unbelievable day of healing that I go back to my Father. So we all win in that. And there is a healing day, even if we don't see it here on this earth. And I believe that so wholeheartedly that I'm not going to be in fear anymore on this earth. I'm going to love people regardless of what's going on, regardless of if there's a gun to my head, regardless of if there's a disease or a virus or whatever it is. And I hope, my earnest hope is that the church stands in that and starts walking out in that, where we are going to be there when people need us, regardless of what that does to us. So I hope that this is something that rings true to someone else. And we've lost people on this earthly realm, and it is painful. And I don't wish that on anyone. I want God to come back and us to live forever with him, and all peace and all joy and no pain. But while we're still in a fallen world, we have a job to do. We have a purpose and we have a plan. And if we shy away from it, we're not doing the work of the Father. We're not being the hands and feet of Christ. And I hope we do, because a lot of people need him right now. A lot of people need him right now. I need him daily. We all do.
Hi everyone, I'm Liz, for those of you who don't know me. For those of you who do know that our family kind of had a hard year this year, especially towards the end. Back in October, our 3-year-old was hospitalized, and that was after 2 visits to the ER already. It was just kind of a whirlwind. And, there were just different emotionally taxing aspects of him being hospitalized, because the hospital would only permit one parent to be with him at a time, and we couldn't switch on and off with other caregivers. It could only be a parent, and it could only be one at a time. So Stephen and I were taking shifts, and that was really hard. That we couldn't really share that burden with people or with anyone else who was more than willing to be there. Just was not permitted. So when we were finally, thankfully, released from the hospital, we came back to church. It was just really overwhelming for me how many people came up and told me how they had really been praying for SJ. And then, Brenda and Jess McLean both immediately told me that they were going to be dropping food off at the end of the day, which was oh my gosh, you don't have to do that. But then when they did, it was that was such a blessing to receive that. And then about a month or 2 ago, my dad contracted Legionnaires disease, which caused another world of problems, and was hospitalized twice because of that. And I'll actually be going down to South Carolina next week to be with him, because he's just too weak to really do anything right now. But then after we found out that he had contracted that, and that thankfully he didn't die from it, because he really could have, just based on some things that were going on. I relayed this to my mom, that every single week for the next 3 or 4 weeks, at least 4 or 5 people every single Sunday told me that they had been praying for him. And, asking about him, telling me that they had really been praying for him, which I know meant a lot to my mom and my dad, and it meant the world to me. I grew up, not because of my parents, just kind of the denomination I grew up in, believing or viewing prayer as more of a ritual. Oh, check the box, you prayed before your meal, you're good. Not really as a privilege or anything that was really powerful. And since getting married and being involved in this church and this family, that's my view of prayer has started to change, and it's actually okay, maybe I should actually pray about things. And then just the fact, being really flooded with prayers so much this year, and seeing those prayers come to fruition has just been really impactful for me. Hopefully for my family too, but for me especially. Thank you all for your prayers.
Just my size.
There you go. I'm sorry.
Thanks. It's okay. I mean, it doesn't happen very often.
There you go.
We're new. I'm Robin. This is my husband, Jeff Seidel. And we've been in the community for a while here in Walkersville. But
30 years.
Yeah, 30 years. We felt drawn away from our previous church and drawn here. And I just want to thank everybody for making us feel very, very welcome. And I said to Jeff this morning, it feels like home. And we haven't felt that for a while. And it's just good. And it's been, like you said, it's been a rough year. And I'm a nurse, and so I was working at the hospital, and at one point was on a COVID floor. And it was a challenge. It was a challenge spiritually, mentally, physically, emotionally. And I'd been praying for a different change of job, and it finally came into fruition. And I just love how God gets in those little details. Don't you just love that? When you're praying for something, and when you pray really specifically, and you talk about checking boxes, it's just like the best of the best. And one of the, I'll have to tell you about that later, that's just a long story, but when you were talking about things that impacted us and verses, and Stephanie and I went to see the C.S. Lewis movie, The Reluctant Convert. It was, he talks like he writes. So if you've ever had to read anything by C.S. Lewis, we were both sitting there going, I have a headache. And she's like, I know, I do too. Because he's so deep, and you're just trying to process everything that this man is saying. And I took him back because I had to see it again and get some things to register, because he was very intellectual, read in Greek and Latin. I don't know what our kids would do if they had to do this, but there wasn't a lot of any talk about feelings. He worked through his salvation with science and studying and research and just pure intellect. And I admired that, because it wasn't, well, how do you feel about that? But one of the statements that he made that just resonated with me was, the hardness of God is softer than the kindness of men. His compulsion is our liberation. You have to chew on that for a while. But I put it in my phone because I have to keep reminding myself that his compulsion, when you were saying he willingly released being God to come to us, and that's our liberation. It still gives me chills. So anyway, thank you.
Hello, there we go. Thank you very much. COVID was an interesting challenge because, of course, most churches shut down, and we had been at our previous church for almost 30 years. And during that time, they went dark, literally, and didn't have anything, so we started watching some of our favorites, some guys that we had not gotten to know for the last 30 years through the Grace Brethren ministry, wonderful preachers, and we found that there was a lot more meat on the bones than we were getting at our previous church. I mean, there was prime rib that we found, and I love prime rib. You know, with the Village Tavern over here has the best prime rib in the world, just so you know. But we found prime rib, eternal prime rib here at Walkersville Community Church. And I love the Greek lessons. I love the Hebrew lessons. There's so much in Scripture that I'm yearning for and desiring for. And it's just beautiful. I so appreciate your passion for Scripture and for details. Being in the details. God loves the details. He created the details. So why shouldn't we be into the details and going, wow, I didn't know that. This word means this here and this here. How many times did I read that and just zoom by it and go, yeah, neat verse. So we found eternal prime rib here, Pastor Tim, and we so appreciate that. What was the other thing I wanted to say? I can't think. But we found our home here. We want to join. We're looking forward to the Walkersville Community Church hazing that occurs when you join. Turn his mic off. But we found family. We love that we're 5 minutes from the church. God puts these opportunities to change in front of you. And Robin was praying separate from me about where we're going to go next. This was last year, right around this time of year, right before Christmas. And I was praying separate from her. Then we prayed together. And within 2 weeks of praying together, God brought us here. That you got to do that unity thing, guys, and gals. But that was so cool to see. And it turns out we know a lot of people together, and we've done things together. That's been to our house before, but that connectivity we need right now, especially in the midst of COVID. So you guys are a blessing to us, every one of you, and we look forward to hanging out with you and doing life with you as we grow older too. So thank you very much.
Hello, is this one? This is more of just a missions moment, but it's going to start with a story about my hair. So sorry. I've been going to 2 different hairstylists through COVID because my salon kind of did something crazy, and these ladies left, and they got one of those salon suites out on Bucky's Turnpike or 85 or wherever. It's called My Salon Suite. So they have their own little cubicle, and they were sharing, and they were working together, and one was babysitting for the other, and it seemed like it was going well until it didn't. And so then I thought, man, I had made a website for them, a little, and I didn't want to upset either of them because I actually made a website for both of them because the other one does cookies, Sprinkle Sisters, the Psychert girls, and which if any of you have been to our house, you've probably had those cookies. So anyway, I didn't want to upset one or the other, but one of the girls had never colored my hair, and that's, for a woman, that's kind of traumatic, to go to somebody new to color your hair. So I thought, oh man, these girls are separated, these ladies separated, what should I do? And I just had an uneasy feeling, but The new one, the one who never colored my hair, was going to color my hair before Christmas. I'm like, so I said to Alan, I said, we may or may not go to your party. If I come back looking like, I can't say what I said, but I said, we're not going. But I went to this appointment, and this stylist, she's lovely. Her older sister graduated with one of my kids, so it's one of those small community, somebody through somebody through somebody. She has tattoos all over her, all horoscope stuff. I thought of you, Pastor Tim, and you kind of ministering to somebody that was in that same space. But we started talking, and I had been talking to her before about the Jesus show, The Chosen, and I had told her to look it up. And when you get your hair colored, you're there for a long time. So we watched a clip together, and we talked about The Chosen, and we talked about Bible studies, and she's like, where can I get hooked into a Bible study? And I went home, and we talked about Jesus, and it turns out that her boyfriend's mother, they're going to church with her boyfriend's parents, and they're very strong in the Lord, so she's really seeking. She has some family stuff that's been hard. Her parents separated, and it's been not good, and she was raised kind of Catholic, but not really having a personal relationship. So we had this really awesome, deep Jesus conversation, and I was worried about my hair. This wasn't about my hair at all. This was about God saying, just go, And so then I texted her later, and I said, hey, I know a Bible study that you could get into. And she's like, I would love that. So now we just have to figure out schedules and see how we can minister to her. But she's really seeking. So I'm like, a thing that I was so selfish about was not about me at all. And of course, my hair turned out okay too. So both were good. So, isn't it funny how God can use something so silly as a hair appointment, to speak to somebody. And I was hesitant, and I'm like, I'm just going to go. So sometimes you just have to step out, I guess. That's the being bold part. For me, that was bold. I know it seems kind of silly, but. So the couple other just that I'm grabbing at. In our Bible study on Friday afternoons, we're studying seeing Jesus in Genesis. And I'm like you, Robin, I've read over these passages and just I knew Jesus was there in the beginning, but never really got into it deeply. And for some reason, I just got more curious about that, and what does that mean, and what does it look like, and where are these signs in the Old Testament of Jesus? And I was also talking to other people. Scott had a book that he's given me, and it just is neat. But the one phrase that keeps coming back is this dependence on God or independent of God? Are we going to be dependent on God, or are we going to live independent? Which is what Adam and Eve tried to do, right? They tried to do their own thing. Instead of running toward God when they were tempted, they ran the other way and got in trouble. So that phrase sticks with me. Am I being dependent on God, or am I trying to live independent of him? I don't know why that stuck with me. And then the other thing was the studies. I thought maybe I was the only one that was thinking this study was like, wow, I'm learning so much. And one of the ladies who's sitting here made me feel really good when she said, this is all new to me and amazing to me. And she was being spoken to too. So that was really exciting. The last thing is, for those of you who want to wish me a Merry Christmas, it's good and Jesus was actually born, but there is no Miller Christmas this year because 2 of the 3 kids' families have COVID. The twins are fine. Josh and Lauren have worked through it, and Josh is already yesterday he plumbed in a new vanity and put a vanity in their bathroom. So he's doing great. And it took forever to get tested on Long Island. I guess it's the same here and everywhere. And then Megan called yesterday, and we were at Ben and Whitney's, and that was our oldest child, and they're fine. But their theory is we're just not going to test. So anyway, everybody's boosted and stuff. So we're like, okay. Whitney's like, just don't test. But anyway, so Megan's husband, my middle daughter, Megan's a nurse, and so she's been really, really careful. Her husband's been working from home. And yesterday she called, and she kind of needed to talk in the middle of the Grinch movie. I mean, come on, Megan, let us finish the Grinch, right? but she didn't. So Alan's like, I knew it was important. Well, Jordan, her husband, who works from home, has COVID because a friend came into the house, brought something, and also brought COVID with it. Well, he had his booster, so at first they thought, well, he's reacting to his booster, because it all happened at the same time. Well, they got 2 home tests, both tested positive. They're trying to get a PCR today, but all this happened on Christmas Day. So anyway, he never got a fever. I guess he had a scratchy throat and just didn't feel great. And it didn't go away in a day, so they figured it wasn't from the booster shot. So anyway, prayers that we get to celebrate in a month from now, hopefully. So, but pray for a lot of families, because it just seems like I've talked to more people than not with it being impacted with this, and families that are careful and families that aren't. I would say my youngest son was not so careful, but, anyway, so just prayers. I just think we need to just keep leaning into God, being dependent on God through this. He's still here. His son is still came to earth. He died on the cross. He rose from the dead, and we just have to stay focused on that through this, and try to make wise decisions, but still be bold. And that's a really hard line to toe, to be bold in our faith, but wise. And because God gave us a brain, so we need to tread and keep in prayer, I think, is the biggie. So anyway, that's it. Thank you.
Sorry, one more story to share that I learned this year, and that is when a shepherd has sheep, he knows all of his sheep. When Christ, our shepherd, has sheep, he knows all of his sheep. When one of those sheep strays, the shepherd knows that sheep has strayed. But they knew their sheep before they strayed. And I was like, wow. When I'm thinking of your hairdresser, you were part of God's plan to bring back that lost sheep, because God knows her. God has identified her. God has chosen her, potentially. And he said, I need you to go after that lost sheep, because I know her. She's valuable to me. She's one of ours. She's a child of God. But the concept that I'm understanding more clearly now is God knows everyone, no matter what. And when we have those opportunities, that's an assignment for us. You got your hair done, the hair looks great, got to the party. God's in the details. He gives us the desires of our hearts. But he's using you to bring back that lost sheep, just as he has done with us, has done with me, has done with Tim, has done with all of us in here. We were lost, but he knew us. And that foreknowing, I just think, is so cool. For some reason, that just went, in the past, that just went out the window or something. But that foreknowledge that he has is just priceless, and that's exciting.
Try to move this up a little closer to my range, maybe. Yeah, I know I don't have to tell you this, but just sitting back here, listening to my wife and listening to Jeff, God is truly amazing. Because I didn't know exactly what Gene was going to say, and I certainly didn't know that Jeff was going to jump up and add some story about the shepherd. But I was thinking about what is my kind of state of mind right now. Where am I at? Where have I been over the last, 6 months or the 2 years we've been into the middle of this mess, if you want to call it that. And trying to think about something I can say, something I can find in a devotional that kind of helps tell that condition of mine. And the real short, quick word is just tired. I don't know about other people's jobs, what industry they're in, but in my industry right now, we're extremely busy. And I've been working, day and night trying to keep up with things. But I found this devotional this morning, and I want to read it to you. It's a little bit long, so hopefully you can be patient. I can read it clear enough so that you can understand what I'm trying to say. But you'll hear in this some things that Jean had said that, again, she didn't know what I was saying, and what Jeff just said, that he had no idea what I was going to say. But it's partly from, what do you want? It's taken from Psalm 23 to some degree. Starting out, I want peace. I want people to get along. I want to know that my kids, in this case for me, my grandkids, will grow up safely. I want to reach lost people for Jesus. I want to have enough money so that I know my family is taken care of, so I can give to others. I want to see our land free and full of justice for all. I want a strong connection with my spouse and each of my family members. What do you want? I have to admit there are lots of things I want. At the same time, when my wants are blocked, I feel frustrated, discouraged, and even angry. It can be in moments like this when anxiety and stress heap on me. In these moments, the bills get larger and the bank account looks smaller. The loud voices of politics make the future look bleak and the present feel off-kilter. The opposition to Jesus seems big, and it appears that he will never break through in my life. Are you there now? Maybe the force of all that is swirling around you, is convincing you that things will not be okay, that you won't be taken care of, or that you'll be defeated. Christ speaks different words. He stands between us and all we face. He stands over us and all we face. He stands with us in all we face. Psalm 23 illustrates to our hearts a greater provider, Jesus as the shepherd. The shepherd feeds us. The shepherd guides us. The shepherd shields us. And as Jeff's case and his point, the shepherd comes after us. I added that. Well, we can't stop looking at all this that is coming at us. There's a better reality moving toward us. It is the good shepherd. He has all the food in his hands. He has all the wisdom at his disposal. He has all the protection we could possibly need. Christ is our greater reality. Beyond this, he truly is all we want and need. While it looks like we get it from out there in the land where people fight and climb over each other for good things, this is not the case at all. Children of God need not subscribe to this mentality, for we know where our help comes from. We know what Christ has done, and what Jean pointed out. He died, was buried, he raised again. He is the master of bringing life to things that look dead and to places that need help. He is the ultimate shepherd of our souls, our hearts, our households, and our families. Indeed, we have all we need in Christ Jesus. This is the starting place of great contentment. Contentment says, I shall not want, and contentment gives way to the beginnings of rest. Exactly what I'm looking for. Where do you feel discontent? How can you right now verbally praise God for his past faithfulness? How can you thank him for being the ultimate fulfillment of all you really need? Amen. I do want to share something else with you real quickly. I have a coworker that was also helped coach my youngest son in baseball. And he had gone through some tough times a couple years ago. He's a little bit younger than me. And he's a true warrior for God. His name is Todd, I'll tell you. Several years ago, he had a stroke, and it scared him. He was just went down, and he told me later, he said, he thought he was dying. he's recuperated to the point now where you can talk to him, you would not know that anything so drastic has happened to him. But he's kept his faith, through all that, bringing up to the most recent. Him and his son are thinking of building a cabin, and we built a cabin 4 years ago. And so they want to come down and see it. So I was talking to him about, hey, you can come down during the holidays and this and that. And, we can show you around and answer questions and, all this kind of stuff. And so I sent him an email a couple days before Christmas, said, hey, Todd, we're going to be down there the week of January, 1st or the last week in December. You guys can come down, or anytime, January, whatever you need. So I sent him this email, and he comes back and sends this email to me. It says, hello, Alan, thanks for the reminder. And unfortunately, we are going to have to stop by sometime later in January or February, if you don't mind. John's son, Liam, and John is the same age as Josh, our youngest, has a son who's 4 months old. His name is Liam. John's son, Liam, has heart surgery scheduled for January 7th, and they will be in quarantine mode for the next 2 weeks before that time. The surgeons want to get him in ASAP so his heart can start functioning at a normal pace. Also, I've been part of the COVID outbreak here at the shop. This is down at our shop where we work. Anyway, and although I'm vaccinated and testing negative, I'm going to play it safe for the next 2 weeks. The bad news on that is we have canceled Christmas with both kids and all grandkids until after our grandson comes home to allow us to celebrate together. On top of that, Diane, who's his wife, Diane's 90-year-old mother went into the hospital yesterday and needs surgery this week to repair blockages in her legs, or else they will have to amputate 2 of her toes. So forth gets into some detail. Christmas 2021 will be one to remember. Other than that, thanks be to God for another day and the joy that is Christmas. You guys have fun with your family. This is when I was telling him we were going to be together and so forth. And so I send him an email back, hey, Todd, wow, sounds like a heavy load to bear for the holiday. Pray all goes well for Liam and your mother-in-law, and you can avoid another bout with COVID. He had COVID earlier in the year. Peace be with you, brother. I look forward to celebration in January. We can go to the cabin anytime, so forth. He comes back with an email that is a description of Todd. He says, hey, Alan, someone already has done the heavy lifting for me. Just as I was expect from Todd, all is well with my soul, and look forward to stopping by sometime in January. So just the example in the message that he sends as a coworker is a blessing to have people like that I can work with. Thanks.
Sharing this morning, you shared, and just appreciate your words. They have fed us this morning. Scott, do you have a closing song? Okay. I will love the open lines of communication we have around here. I'm going to invite you to stand as Scott comes to lead us in our closing song, and then we will together, as we do almost every service, but not Christmas Eve and Christmas concert, we will agree in prayer in the words that Jesus gave us.
Oh, there it is. One more chance to sing a Christmas song this year before we move on to 2022. Whew. Plus, I like playing this song on the guitar, and I haven't had a chance to do it this year, so that's why we're doing it. What child is this who lay to rest on Mary's lap is sleeping, whom angels greet with anthems sweet, while shepherds watch are keeping? This is Christ the King, whom shepherds guard and angels sing. Haste, haste to bring him, Lord, the babe, the Son of Mary. Why lies he in such mean a state, where ox and ass are feeding? Good Christians fear, for sinners hear the silent word is pleading. This is Christ the King, whom shepherds guard and angels sing. Haste, haste to bring him, Lord, the babe, the Son of Mary. So bring him incense, gold, and myrrh, come pleasant King to own him. The King of kings, salvation brings, let loving hearts enthrone him. This is Christ the King, whom shepherds guard and angels sing. Haste, haste to bring him, Lord, the babe, the Son of Mary. This is Christ the King, whom shepherds guard and angels sing. Haste, haste to bring him, Lord, the babe, the Son of Mary.
Man, thank you. As you are comfortable, please feel free to take the hand of the person beside you. As together we finish out the year 2021 as far as Sundays go and anticipate 2022. Next week, Bernie Gower will kick the new year 2022 off on Sunday morning. And so let's pray together. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory forever. Amen. Thank you so much for being here. God bless you. Have a great and safe new year. I love you.